What scientifically confirmed fact is still disbelieved? Story 1. When you argue with people who don't agree with well-known scientific facts, the hardest thing is that science isn't flawless. Scientists can make mistakes. Old science can be shown to be wrong. Dishonest scientists can publish bad papers in bad journals. And to people who don't know better, they look just as real as something published in Nature. These people will save these papers and declare, "See, science proves I'm right," even though the study they chose is only one in a million. It's hard to argue with them since it takes a lot of work to show them wrong. It takes a lot of work to go through their references and show that they're wrong or that they don't work, and not many people know how to do it. Story 2. A lot of homeopathic material is essentially a placebo. Before, I didn't know what the word homeopathic meant or had ever heard of it. I thought that only meant a home remedy. When I found out what it truly was, I was appalled. People have asked me what the harm is if it's just a sugar pill, but think about how it's a sugar pill instead of actual treatment when the person thinks they are doing something serious. Where else in medicine would that make sense? Every time I go to Walgreens and find bogus medicines sold next to real ones, as if they are the same, I get so mad. I've been a terrified mom wanting to help my sick child, but not knowing what to buy. Screw Walgreens and any other pharmacy that does this. Forget the politicians who made bogus medication legal. Story 3. How well vaccinations work. A few days ago, an 83-year-old woman came on BBC radio. She started to lose her sight as a youngster after having complications from meningitis. Her sight got worse and worse until she completely lost it on her wedding day. She has been completely blind for more than 60 years. She's now stuck at home because her guide dog died recently, and she is doing her best to take care of her husband, who has dementia. It was one of the most powerful things I've ever heard when she begged folks to get their kids vaccinated. Story 4. Old cars don't have the same braking system as modern cars. If you see a classic car on the road, older than the 1989s maybe, please do not pull in front of them or cut them off expecting that they can slow down as quickly as your car can. We have a 65 and a 54. Not only can we not brake as quickly, but we also don't have the safety features of modern cars, so even a fender bender to you could end us. We know driving our old cars is more dangerous, but they're a lot of fun, not just for us, but for other people too. If folks would just think of our cars like the old ladies that they are, instead of treating them like modern cars, we'd be a lot safer. Oh, and trucks towing anything also can't stop as quickly, so please don't dart in front of those either. That's an important PSA that too many modern drivers overlook. Classic cars weren't built with ABS, modern brake pads, or advanced safety systems, and their stopping distance can be significantly longer, especially if the brakes are drum style rather than discs. The same goes for large trucks or anything towing. Physics doesn't care how impatient you are. Treating these vehicles with extra space and respect isn't just courteous, it's literally life-saving for everyone involved. Story 5. There are true forms of abuse that don't involve physical harm, and they can be just as harmful, if not more so, as physical forms of abuse. People who require a white cane, wheelchair, braces, or prostheses are the only ones who are really disabled. ETA, someone kindly pointed out to me that I actually meant the opposite of this part, that people still don't think that invisible illnesses and impairments count. Oops. Mental health is genuine and important. Vaccines work. Evolution is a true thing that happens. ETA. Stella Liebeck wasn't a gold digger who sued McDonald's because she thought she'd receive some quick cash. She had pretty bad burns from coffee that was way too hot, and all she wanted was for her medical fees to be paid. Story 6. Mental illness in general, such depression and schizophrenia. A lot of individuals really believe that mental problems don't exist, and that everyone just thinks too much about them and can get rid of them if they stop being stupid or faking to seek attention. A lot of people say things like, "Depression doesn't exist, just go outside," or "I've never seen a so-called schizophrenic attack a big, strong boxer. One hit in the face and they'll be fine." A state radio host uttered the last one while talking about mental health. I've witnessed how mental illness can affect people and the people around them. It wrecks lives. It's so frustrating how many people are wrong about it and how confident they are that they're right. Story 7. Meat doesn't cause cancer, fat doesn't cause heart disease, sugar does. Cholesterol isn't bad. People didn't die young in the past, they actually lived longer but survived birth less often. We have more disease today than we ever did in the past. When doctors say something is incurable, what they actually mean is there is no surgical or pharmaceutical cure. That is, you can cure gum disease by simply not consuming fermentable carbohydrates. Etc. Story 8. Scientists still study and measure social phenomena. They aren't concrete like physics and chemistry are, but you can still see, measure, prove, or disprove them. They can alter throughout time, but right now they can still be seen and measured. Social scientists note the presence of heterosexism, racism, and classism across various cultural groups. Many individuals deny the existence of these phenomena despite their participation in them. Social scientists have also observed that these events serve as instruments for stratifying the working class inside capitalist institutions. Even fewer individuals are willing to accept this because they would have to accept the first set of facts first. Story 9, that the world is better now than it has ever been. People think that being smart means being negative, and that being positive is stupid and ignorant. But if you look at practically any state of the globe, such hunger, literacy in children, violence, political corruption, etc., we are better off now than we have ever been. There are still challenges, obesity, climate change, etc., but it turns out that living in a civilization that has been working for thousands of years is quite great. That's a refreshingly grounded take. It's easy to romanticize the past or focus on today's headlines, but if you zoom out and look at the data, the long arc of history shows massive progress. Lower extreme poverty, longer lifespans, higher literacy, fewer violent deaths per capita, and better healthcare than at any point in human history. The catch is that progress isn't flashy, bad news grabs attention, good news feels boring. So people equate optimism with naivety, when in reality, a positive outlook rooted in facts is just as rational as cynicism. Story 10. Employers are tired of hiring good students who don't do their jobs well. Thus, the value of a college degree is going down. To some extent, but there will always be some jobs that demand schooling or general knowledge that companies won't pay for. Most Canadians go to college for 1 or 2 years to get a diploma, and then they go to university to get a degree or a master's degree. I finished a 2-year nanotechnology diploma program and got a job that started on Tuesday. It's probably not possible for anyone who doesn't know how to operate in a clean room to obtain that, John, since it would be too expensive to train them. I think a lot of individuals are going into programs that aren't going anywhere and don't need new personnel every year. People should think about what they want to learn and whether there will be jobs in their profession after they graduate. Story 11. If one country were to explode a nuclear bomb, it could easily end the world because there are so many of them. The other country would strike back and so on and so forth. 9 countries have about 15,000 nuclear weapons. The US and Russia keep about 1,800 of their nuclear weapons on high alert, ready to be launched within minutes of a warning. Most of these weapons are much more powerful than the atomic bombs dropped on Japan in 1945. Story 12. During interrogations, the police can lie to you, trick you, and change what you say. Most people think there are rules in place, but after you give up your right to an attorney and agree to talk, they can do just about whatever they want as long as they don't threaten you. No matter what, always get a lawyer right away. I learned this in middle school when a local undercover cop befriended an autistic boy who had no friends, then stopped being friends with him, and finally told the child that the only way to be his friend was to bring him some cannabis. Then, after he got the weed, he arrested the youngster. I believe the parents took legal action. It was a giant bug. Then I remember the next few years when I was in high school, it was like cannabis was free for all. No cop wanted to get you in trouble for it. When I was 17, I got pulled over for smoking while driving. The cop told me to just throw it out the window and go on my way. Story 13. Don't tell the cops anything, but tell the nurses and EMTs everything, even if it is against the law. They don't care what medicines you've taken. They just don't want to end you with anesthesia. They want to know if you're acting crazy because you're drunk or high or if you have brain damage. They need to know what you took and how much so that a strange drug interaction doesn't kill you. They also need to know whether you're going to go through withdrawal while you're there so they can give you the right treatment. As someone who is often sick, I completely endorse lying in the ER to persuade doctors to believe you, but do not lie about medicines. That includes drugs, nicotine, alcohol, and hallucinogens. That's solid, potentially life-saving advice. Police are looking for evidence, but medical staff are looking to keep you alive. And that requires accurate, honest information about what's in your system. Even minor omissions can be dangerous. If they don't know about the alcohol, weed, or pills you've taken, they can't anticipate dangerous interactions or complications under anesthesia, sedation, or emergency meds. In short, keep quiet with law enforcement, but treat your nurses and EMTs like you're reading them your full ingredient label. Your safety depends on it. Story 14. Just because something is in the news doesn't mean it's important. Also, just because mainstream news isn't covering something doesn't imply it's not relevant. The news likes to speak about things that don't matter, like how Donald Trump's butt looked odd when he played tennis that one time, or how Joe Biden likes ice cream. These stories aren't news. At the same time, there are very important issues that get little or no attention at all, and when they do, they are sometimes misrepresented on purpose. Most mainstream news channels are basically tools for spreading propaganda. One additional thing, a lot of the stuff that is shared on social media isn't real. Some businesses pay people to like, upvote, and share their posts. Reddit is a good example. It's common knowledge that a lot of the people who use it are bots. But most of us just upvote their posts every day, which raises their karma score, and then we don't think about what that means. A lot of concepts get shared on social media these days that aren't really popular, but they're being shared and pushed because influential people want the public to either adopt those mindsets or believe information that may or may not be genuine. Who knows what they mean? You can't avoid propaganda, you actually help it spread. It's easy to recognize bots or hired trolls if you look into the profiles of different persons you come across. I know that sharing this knowledge makes me sound like a conspiracy theorist. Story 15. I have a voice in my head that talks to me, and I thought everyone else did too. I don't, and every time I've seen a movie where we could hear the main character's inner monologue, I thought it was overdone and false, or that it must have been difficult and distracting for the character to keep it at that level. I can keep it going with my imagination, but either it's going to keep me from doing everything I'm doing, or I'll forget about doing it as soon as something else comes up. Plus, I have to put an extra effort to figure out what the voice is talking about, like I'm making up a script or freestyling it without the natural flow. It took me a bit to figure out that some people really do have a voice in their heads that talks all the time. Story 16. Not most people didn't know, but my best friend didn't realize that there was fresh milk and milk that lasts a long time. I don't know if it's a thing in the US. Fresh milk lasts for 3 weeks and should always be kept in the fridge. Long shelf life milk lasts for 6 months and only has to be kept in the fridge if it is opened. We went to the store once and she bought 6 1-liter bottles of fresh milk. When I asked her why, she claimed it was because she drinks a lot of milk. A few weeks later, she told me that they had all gone bad and spoiled, even though they weren't past their expiration date. I asked her a few more questions, and when she said she put them in the pantry like she always did, it hit me that she didn't know. So I reminded her that there are many kinds of milk. She couldn't believe it. This was the first time she had heard this. And it looks like she only drank long shelf life milk for 24 years. Yuck. I still make fun of her for that. Story 17. The difference between a credit card and a debit card. When I was in law school, I worked on bankruptcy law and conducted a free clinic where people could ask questions about their money and get advice on what to do next. When I would point out the fees or interest on the credit card statements, people would look at me like I was crazy. I didn't buy anything for $39. Yes, I know, that's the interest for the month. Then, no, I didn't charge that. This card is exclusively for 7-Eleven. I know that people in this country don't know much about money, But I swear that even if that changes, people would still choose Slurpees above an emergency fund and be debt-free. Story 18. Please respond by RSVP if you're coming. Don't respond if you're not coming. Respond. Let us know if you're coming or not, especially for a large event. For my wedding a few years ago, I only got 4 RSVPs back out of 70. I had all the envelopes ready to go, but I hadn't put their return address on them yet. I had to call or message every person or family to receive my answer in time for my vendors, which was a major waste of time. At the very least, send a text or something. And on top of that, don't change your mind at the last minute without at least giving me a heads up. You are making someone pay for extra food so you can eat, but then the food is wasted or charged even if it wasn't served. Whether it's a wedding or birthday celebration, you should show up when you say you will or let the host know ahead of time so they can make changes. Story 19. Social media platforms use computer algorithms. They don't push the content that you want. It's not attempting to guess what you enjoy. It is only trying to get you to click on higher-tier paid ads. The computer algorithm works better the more this fact is kept secret. Imagine it like a trail of breadcrumbs. Each breadcrumb gives you a clue about the next video they want you to watch. The more adverts you see on YouTube, the more money they make. For example, you sign up for YouTube and then view a video that shows you how to style your hair. The algorithm gives us a 70% push for similar material and a 30% push for higher reward stuff. If you click on one of these videos with a 30% larger reward, for example, it's a video showing a guy drilling a hole in the seat of his toilet. Your algorithm will suddenly be 30% hair and 70% toilet hole, idiot. It will keep track of the math behind every video you search for and every video you actually watch. This way, it can maintain the material as near to what you enjoy as possible while still showing you videos that will make YouTube money. Example 2. You get TikTok on your phone. TikTok makes money from videos about the letter C. You're watching videos on the letter A, which aren't. To induce you to click on the letter C video, the algorithm will send you a ton of letter C videos right after your letter A video. If you do bite, the computer algorithm will employ math again to keep sending you to letter C videos. Story 20. Dyscalculia is a learning problem that makes it hard to understand, study, and do arithmetic in general. I've always had trouble with simple math. I require paper and pencil and to count on my fingers to complete math that most people can do in their heads in a nanosecond. I don't like it when someone hears this and then asks me to complete math problems in my head to show how bad I am at math. Really? You can't do percentages? How much is 32% of 75? What part of I can't mentally compute percentages didn't you get? That's a perfect example of how people can be dismissive about invisible learning differences. Dyscalculia isn't just being bad at math, it's a cognitive processing difference, and asking someone to prove it on the spot is both rude and stressful. It's like asking someone with dyslexia to read aloud to see their struggle, or asking someone with a stutter to speak quickly for your curiosity. It ignores the fact that the challenge is real and that forcing a demonstration doesn't help. It just embarrasses. Neurodiversity means recognizing that not everyone's brain handles the same tasks the same way, and respecting that without turning it into a pop quiz. Story 21. I thought I already knew all the ideas and how to win friends and influence people, and had already begun to use them. I don't get why people need to be warned not to say bad things about other people, and instead be polite and praise people. It just makes sense to me. But most people don't already know that if you criticize them, they won't like you and won't want to be near you. I teach leadership and management on the side, and in my experience, it's a little more complicated than that. They know they should be polite to people, but they don't see how they aren't, or they make excuses for their behavior. I have to tell them they're wrong. I'm their boss. They were cruel to me. I'm simply direct, not rude. That book also came out in the 1930s when authoritarian leadership approaches were more common. I think it was making the case for democratic leadership before it was a thing. In my opinion, it is still important since it promotes intentionality. People get really offended and shut down when I or a 365 review point out that they aren't doing good things that they know they should be doing. So I have them read HTWFAIP and tell them to focus on really simple, nice things to do and do them on purpose. Now their actions are more purposeful and moving in the direction of the good things we want to see. Instinctual behavior versus deliberate behavior is a bigger issue. And HTWFAIP isn't rocket science, it's just making someone more intentional instead of instinctual. Story 22. It's wrong for companies who use multi-level marketing. Many people say that 99% of MLM sellers lose money. These businesses take advantage of weak and ignorant people, mostly women. These could be stay-at-home parents or folks who are sick all the time and are just trying to provide for their family. MLMs tell salespeople to use their personal relationships to help them make sales and tell them to cut ties with people who aren't supportive. Finally, MLM distributors are not boss babes or business owners. Business owners are in charge of making and marketing their products as well as their branding and marketing plans. Distributors of MLMs have no say in these business choices. In general, MLMs are bad businesses with dishonest business aims and practices. You should stay away from them at all costs. Story 23. Which presidents are on different types of money? I recall talking to someone at an old job about money, and suddenly the president came up. They didn't know who was on the $5, so I asked them. I asked them about the $20, but they didn't know either. That was so unusual to me that I went and asked some of my coworkers the same questions. Most of the folks I asked didn't know the answers. This was roughly 15 years ago when people always used cash. I thought everyone knew that was one of those things. Story 24. I don't think it's most people, at least I hope, but I taught biology at a small college and the first chapter was really simple arithmetic. It was about percentages, like how to figure them out and how to change them from decimals to percentages. At 18 and older, I was already shocked that so many people didn't get this. But what truly shocked me was that they didn't know anything basic that I thought any adult knew. For instance, one math issue can ask, Bob worked 76 days a year. At what percentage of the year does Bob work? A lot of individuals didn't realize how many days there are in a year. But it grew worse. Some individuals didn't even know how many hours were in a day, how many seconds were in a minute, or how many minutes were in an hour. Just general knowledge like that. It blew my head and transformed how I teach completely. Story 25. It depends on where you are. Before I moved to the desert, I didn't know the following things. Cut off the rattlesnake's head and put it in a glass jar when you end it. A head that has been cut off will still try to bite for an hour or more. No one can get to it if it's in a glass jar, and it can't get to anyone. Your dogs might get snake bit if you toss it away or bury it. Rubbing alcohol destroys scorpions right away. Take a pair of tongs or long tweezers and grab a scorp. Then put it in a jar with about an inch of rubbing alcohol. Even though they are really scary because of their size, tarantulas are not dangerous at all. Story 26. Science 101. No, really like basic things like how heat rises and how boiling points work. I went to an excellent school in the suburbs when I was a kid and learned a lot. I always felt that most people should know this because it's elementary school. Not right. When I worked at a huge warehouse in LA, most of the other workers were also immigrants from other countries and had little or no education. I was one of the few people who graduated from high school. I had to coach this one girl a lot because she worked directly for me. I forget why, but I had to show her that heat increases. I told her about it initially, but it was the first time she had heard it. She didn't believe what I said. I used a lighter to show how the flame goes higher. She still didn't believe me and stated it was because the gas was pointing up. So I turned the lighter to the side to show that the flame goes up, even if the gas moves to the side. She still didn't trust me, even as I stood next to a campfire. The heat is hot adjacent to it and moves to the side. I gave up, and I still think she doesn't trust me. Story 27. Dogs are creatures. Even if we give them human traits, at least in the US, they are still animals and will act like animals. No matter how much you love and trust a dog, you should never leave them alone with a tiny child or someone who can't move. If you have a dog, you should also learn about how dogs communicate with each other. We are primates, and our body language is considerably different from that of canids. Body language can lead to a lot of confusion. Even if you don't have a dog, it's still a good idea to master the principles and teach them to your kids. It will make interactions a lot safer. Patricia McConnell's book, The Other End of the Leash, is a fantastic way to learn about how dogs communicate.